Good afternoon and welcome to Fridays with Friends at Coast to Coast Legal Aid. I'm Geraldine DiBianchi. I am the Mobile Justice Squad Attorney in the Senior Citizen Law Unit. I am delighted today to be joined by our Executive Director, Lisa Goldberg. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you for joining us. For those of you who don't know, it is Women's History Month, and we are kicking off Women's History Month with a discussion in a history of women in the law. So we thought it would be great to start with our leader here at Coast to Coast Legal Aid and get a little history on Lisa. So Lisa, please give us a little bit of your background, where you're from, where you went to law school. Just give us a picture of Lisa Goldberg.
Oh boy, you don't want that.
boy.
But anyway, I grew up I was born in Washington, D.C. I grew up in Bethesda, Maryland, right outside of Washington. I grew up in a big family and went to University of Maryland, go Terps, undergrad, and came down here for law school because I could not take those long walks across campus in College Park, Maryland, and went to law school at Nova Southeastern University.
Wow. So that was your trajectory from being in the cold to I got to get out of this snow.
Exactly. And
Exactly.
I met my husband at Nova, and he actually went to University of Maryland as well, and we both agreed we were not going back.
Really? Fun. I had a lot of friends that went to University of Maryland. It's a very good school. And Nova, of course. So tell me, what inspired you to go into law, and even more specifically into public interest law?
My dad was an attorney, and he really helps. I saw him help so many people. He actually helped perfect the law on attractive nuisance in Washington, D.C., and had so many interesting, intriguing cases. He impressed upon me that practicing law was never boring, that it's life, and that so many people come to you with just everyday trials and tribulations, and that you can help resolve them. So it really inspired me. I started out in law school in Washington, D.C., and then came down here.
That's a really good point, Lisa. There is nothing boring about practicing law. You could have, the same legal issue, but each case is nuanced. Each case and each human is different. So there's never a day where, I know I don't, and I know you, like you just said, there's never a day where you say, gee, I was bored practicing law. There's never that. It's really inspiring. It's something that every day you get up and you learn something new, and you put the useful tools together that you have.
Absolutely.
Public interest, is that what you've always done, Lisa? Were you ever in private practice?
I came right out of Nova and went into public interest law because at Nova they had a great clinic, a family law clinic. I never actually took family law at Nova, which is kind of ironic, but I took the clinic and I really fell in love with family law. I loved it's almost like a hybrid social work, legal practice. I met so many interesting people, felt that I was helping so many people doing family law. You really help great people during the worst time of their lives, and I felt that I made a difference. I kind of really pestered Tony Karat to hire me. He finally relented, and in 1985, I came on board to Legal Aid Service of Broward County. And then when we established Coast to Coast Legal Aid of South Florida, I moved to Coast.
You were always in the family division, and that was always your practice area.
Exactly. I was the one and only person in the family law unit when I started, and now it's grown. It grew to like 20 people at one point.
Wow.
And now Mindy Jones is the director of the family law unit.
And she is your successor.
Exactly.
You were our family law director until you were appointed to this position. So let's go to that. When were you appointed as executive director? Where did you come from? How did that work? You transitioned from attorney to director of the family unit and then executive director. Tell us.
Right. Well, what happened was the board called me one day and asked me to interview to be director of the family law unit. I actually suggested that they might want to interview some other people at Coast to Coast Legal Aid that I thought might be better suited for executive director. But after interviewing with them, which they insisted upon, they came back to me and asked me to be executive director. And of course, I love Coast to Coast Legal Aid, and I agreed to be executive director. I started 1 year ago, February 26th of 2021. So I have been, at first I was interim executive director. Now I am executive director.
Well, happy anniversary.
Thank you.
I think I speak for everyone at Coast to Coast. We're very happy that they pushed you for that interview and
Thank
that you accepted the position because you're doing an outstanding job.
I appreciate
You really
that.
are.
You're
Yes.
very kind.
You're a very kind leader, but you guide us. You really do with real experience and knowledge. So we're really lucky to have you. Was
Thank
it
you.
difficult for you to make that transition from family law director, hands-on with law, even though you did administrative, you were still hands-on with cases, and now you're full administration. How does that feel? And are you missing it? You're missing those clients.
Well, I tell you, I loved my clients. Every one of my clients was a victim of intimate partner violence. And as much as I helped them, they truly inspired me because they were all in such difficult positions and had the strength to make a change. And that's not an easy thing to do. And some of them were just in terrible situations. So I do miss that aspect of it. I've learned to, I like administration. I enjoyed being the director of the family law unit. I like the administrative part of it. And so I've grown into this position. I could not have done this position for the last year without the assistance of the other directors at Coast to Coast. We have some really, really talented staff at Coast to Coast. The executive assistant knows everything about Legal Service Corporation and Coast to Coast. And the director of each unit at Coast to Coast have just been amazing and have really helped us, this program, through the first year. So it's only with them that we are where we are today.
I agree. It is a really great team that we have here. Everybody collaborates. Everybody's exceptional at their individual job. And then when asked to help with someone else, nobody says no. Everybody is, it's a really great environment because everybody really respects the other people at Coast to Coast, that you're willing to lend a helping hand wherever necessary, whether it's in your particular area or outside of it, where everybody works together. And I think that comes from the top. Somebody like you, you're always there, Lisa, always. So
well, thanks. And but as you said, and I'd like to emphasize that we've made such strides in so many things in the past year because of the staff we have, and they've all stepped up. And it's none of the things have been small undertakings, and we just have a lot of really dedicated, devoted staff members who are creative and have really invested in the program. So I'm so
Yeah.
appreciative of all of them.
I think creative is a really good word to use because while we have the intelligence is second to none, the creativity is just perfect, especially for this time where we have to pivot in and out of variants and we have to pivot in and out of technology. And there's always somebody there that's able to meet that challenge. So
Exactly. We
we're
have a
lucky.
great group of
It
people.
is a great group. So give us a little bit insight from the past and your vision into the future of Coast to Coast.
Okay, well, since I've been here since with the program since 1985, I can tell you that you know, working at Legal Aid and Coast to Coast, it's a very, very collaborative, as we've been talking about, setup. You're always turning to another attorney or a paralegal or somebody that has information that you need and want them to share with you. And we're so lucky that we have so many knowledgeable people. Um, so we want to maintain that collaboration and really build on it. So my vision for the future is that we continue to collaborate even more with Legal Aid Service of Broward County. I think there's going to be a real growth spurt very soon where we work together even more collaboratively. You know, the emphasis that we have is providing legal services to those who most need them in our community but can't afford them. We provide education and outreach, and we want as many people in the community in Broward County and of course Collier County across the alley to benefit from services that we have and to know what their rights are. So I think there's just going to be a big growth and we're going to see it soon. More collaboration.
I like that. Yeah. And you know what? I think it's doable. I think it's possible. I think you have all the people ready to do that. We already, like you said, there's already a lot of that crossover and assistance. So I think if we do it consciously, I think it will be a pretty seamless.
I
So
agree.
before we move on to talk about a history of women in the law with a little bit of a PowerPoint, I think we should tell everybody where we were yesterday, Lisa. We weren't playing hooky.
Oh
We
no.
were.
Yeah. We were
No,
at
we weren't.
211 luncheon, and I'm gonna hand it to you as to why we were at that luncheon.
Right. The 211 does an annual luncheon for nonprofits, and the Mobile Justice Squad was nominated for the Innovation of the Year award. And we were honored to be nominated. And everybody there was just an amazing group of people who work dedicated every day in organizations to those people that are most in need. So a lot of organizations that assist with children or, domestic violence and anybody that is not accessing justice or needs, these nonprofits step up and fill it. And it was just amazing to see. It was inspiring to be there and to see that many people working that hard. And more than half, we didn't even know about it. And we're in that community. And we were just wowed. I would say definitely awestruck by the work and the efforts that they do. It was humbling. It really was.
It really was. And just a nod to Tony Karat, who won Staff Leader of the Year from Legal Aid Service of Broward County. And Tony just retired for real on January 31st. Yes.
Yes. So congratulations to Tony. Well deserved. And again, just to be nominated there was just quite an honor. It really was. And it was an enjoyable day that people were out and about again, which was also another, first for us. So
it was.
We're hoping to be entering into some post-pandemic world in some kind of fashion.
Exactly.
So Lisa and I, Lisa has has graciously accepted the challenge of talking today with me about a history of women in law. And
Okay,
I
here we
have,
go.
yeah, I've compiled a list of firsts for the most part, and not for any, this has nothing to do with opinions as to legal aid or myself or anybody in particular, but these women in the law stood out. So I thought they were very worthy of discussion to see whose shoulders we are standing on to be here today. Lisa and I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for some of these women. And maybe those who are younger than us, if there are a few of them in there, then, you know, we walk with them and ahead of them. So we hope to inspire along with these women every day. So I'm going to just read our disclaimer first. Of course, this is not moving. Here we go. So I'm going to read it from here because we're blocked. This presentation is not intended to provide specific legal advice. Information in today's presentation is current as of March 4th, 2022. This PowerPoint may not be reproduced, distributed, copied, or cited in whole or in part without Coast to Coast Legal Aid of South Florida's written permission. For more information, please visit our website at coasttocoastlegalaid.org or call 954-236-2400. So I thought it only fitting, as we are women in the law, we should begin with our very first female Supreme Court Justice, Sandra Day O'Connor. She was a trailblazer at the top level because what did she do, Lisa? She was the first woman to sit on the Supreme Court. Everybody knows her name. And if you were on Jeopardy, or if you're 5 years old, if you're 500 years old, you know Sandra Day O'Connor, because that made a mark in history. It let people know that we women deserve a seat at every table. And so she was appointed in 1981 by President Reagan. And you know what struck me, Lisa? I did not know this until I made this presentation. She continues to hear cases at the United States Court of Appeals after she retired. Did you know that?
I did not know it until until
Yeah.
I looked her up, I have to say, in preparation for this.
Yeah, I thought, wow, look at, that's a devotion. It really is. So, you know, she stepped aside or decided to take, you know, a lesser position, maybe less time, but she still devoted her time to the courts. So God bless her.
So I just want to say something about her.
Please.
Sandra Day O'Connor grew up on a almost 200,000 acre ranch.
In Texas, where was she?
In Arizona. There was
Arizona.
no electric. See, there. It's always the facts behind the person that give you some information about their grit. There was no electricity or water, and she ended up living with her maternal grandmother because she was so far away from school. She had to live with her grandmother so she could go to school. And she was 16 years old when she enrolled in Stanford University.
Wow. See, everybody
16.
thinks, you know, everybody thinks that it's people of privilege and everybody's sitting there and everybody's stuck. But these people, they work their way up. I mean, unbelievable. That is quite a story. Let's see who's next. Sarah Weddington. Not only was she the youngest person ever to argue before the highest court, the youngest person was a woman to argue before the highest court. So that's amazing. Wait, there's more. What was the case she argued? Roe versus Wade.
Roe versus Wade, yeah.
Roe versus Wade. I mean, that was, like it says here, a milestone ruling in legalizing abortion, argued by a woman, the youngest person ever to argue a case before the Supreme Court.
And do you know what I found out when I looked her up? And this is probably why she argued this case. When she was in her third year of law school, she became pregnant.
Right.
And had to travel to Mexico for an abortion. And my guess is that probably had some bearing on her feeling so strongly about this subject matter.
Absolutely. I mean, your passion usually comes from something personal, and you put that to use. Look what she did.
Right.
This woman changed history.
She
Make
did.
them, she really did. And talk about something that gets talked about every single day. But nobody says that was a woman and the youngest person. Nobody says that. Very important. Next, we have Janet Reno, a Florida native, appointed by the governor of Florida to serve as the state attorney in Miami. First woman to hold that position. She stayed there till 1993, until Bill Clinton appointed her as the first woman to be the Attorney General of the United States, and held that. She was the longest serving Attorney General. I bet you have stories about her, Lisa.
I do.
What do you
You
think
know
when
what's
you
really
think?
interesting about her? Do you
Tell
know
me.
that her own mother built the house that she lived in? Her mother,
No,
not her father. Her mother built the house that she lived in.
you see?
Her mother learned masonry, electrical work, and plumbing to build the house that she ended up living in the whole rest of her life. She continued to live in that house. And Janet Reno established the first drug court.
Yes, she did. That's a really good point. See, all of those things, they just pop into your mind. But look at that. Oh, first Attorney General. It took 1993. We should have had a woman as Attorney General before then, but look, she did it. She did it. Good for her. Next up, Margaret Brent. So Margaret Brent, if you look back historically, she was the first woman to appear before a court of common law, the first to argue, at least as far as they could go back, before a tribunal. So the first lawyer, first female lawyer here in the United States or in the colonies, was Margaret Brent. And she did it because she wanted to own her own land. Just like with Roe versus Wade, she had her own interest there. And she said, I got to do this. I'm going to do it myself. She went before a group of men.
And what
Go ahead,
state
Lisa.
did she own land in, Geraldine? Do you know?
Oh, is this wait a minute. I feel like you know the answer to this, Lisa.
I do. Well, I'll just tell you, Maryland, where I come from.
It was Maryland,
It
right?
was Maryland, St. Mary's County.
Really? Is that where you're from?
No.
No. Or where? No. Oh my goodness. I didn't know that. So look, so that was what, she had a lot of, what can we say? Chutzpah. Getting in front of a group of men and saying, I could do it too. And I want to own land. So I'm going to argue my own case.
Incredible.
Incredible.
16,
And then there's Lyda Burton Conley.
39.
You know who she was? She was our first Native American to argue before the Supreme Court. And she was the third woman, and first Native American to argue a case in front of the Supreme Court. So before her, no Native American had argued before the Supreme Court. So, again, trailblazer after trailblazer. And these things, this 1910, it's taken a village, and it's taking a long time, but we're making our way through history. We really are.
Do you know why she argued before the Supreme Court?
I see a little, I might, but you tell it. No, please, Alex, tell us.
Kansas City was developing, and they wanted to develop Kansas City right on top of an Indian cemetery's land. So in other words, it was prime real estate, and she wanted to protect the Huron Indian cemetery.
She got up there and she said, I'm going to fight this. Did she win, Lisa?
Oh,
I don't
know the outcome.
I am not,
Further
what?
research will take place.
We'll do more research. I'm not 100% sure that she was successful, and I'm not going to, we're on being recorded, but that's a good question we should look that up. Yep. But another great woman, another woman of color, another woman of an indigenous woman who got up there and began paving the way for others. And who do we have here? Sonia Sotomayor, Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, first Hispanic justice to sit on the court. Just like the previous woman we spoke about, she was the first Native American, this is the first Hispanic, and they were both women to be those first. Not only were they first, but they were the first women of those different colors and different backgrounds. She was nominated by Barack Obama, and she's been on the court since 2009. She has quite a story. Tell us a little about what you know, Lisa.
She knew at 10 years old that she wanted to be an attorney.
Mhm.
At 10 years old, I knew nothing. I certainly didn't know
really,
what I
honestly.
wanted to be.
It's true.
But she was inspired by Nancy Drew books. She would read Nancy Drew books, and that's how she got
And
her
that
focus.
inspired her. Well,
Yes.
she's obviously a voracious reader. She's very knowledgeable, and she didn't have an easy background either. You know, I believe she lost her father when she was very young. But she worked her way up, and she did very well for herself, and to get on the Supreme Court, and she's a pivotal voice on there as well. She's a strong person. Speaking of strong people, this could be like multiple pages on Hillary Rodham Clinton, because she did a lot of firsts. Hillary was a first of many firsts, right? The first lady elected to the US Senate, the first elected to New York statewide. She was this most traveled Secretary of State, and she was the first woman to be on the ballot of a major political party to run for the presidency of the United States. I mean,
Well, wait a second. Is that true?
she wasn't is it not?
How about
Tell me.
Shirley Chisholm? Was she? I mean,
You're-
I may be wrong, but in my
you're right.
lifetime, Shirley Chisholm, I remember
You're
somewhere
right.
in the 70s, ran, I believe, as a Democrat for president.
You know, you may be right. You are probably right. We need a fact checker on that. We need
Somebody in
we
the
need a fact-
audience.
Can we get a fact check on that? I'm going to go to you. You're right.
I have
Again,
no
none of
idea,
this.
but-
This is Lisa and I having a discussion. And
Yes,
so Hillary Rodham Clinton broke a lot of glass ceilings.
she did. She
For women,
did.
she inspires, and to this day, she's still a voice out there. She never gives up. So you got to give her credit for perseverance, and that's
Indeed.
really that should be her middle name, Perseverance. So we were talking about a lot of firsts, Lisa. I thought no matter what, when you have a discussion of women in law, history of women in law, again, this was all just, I put a list together. I couldn't go without Ruth Bader Ginsburg, right? RBG, here, Lisa and I have our socks at the ready. You can't have a discussion without saying how much this woman did for the law. I love the case of United States versus Virginia, which held that the Virginia Military Institute could not refuse to admit women. She never gave up. She did not give up. And she dissented in Bush v. Gore. And when she dissented, she didn't say, I respectfully dissent, and it's on the bottom of my sock, says, I dissent. And that was just it, because she was known for what they say here, her restrained writing. Right? It says, I dissent, and that was it. She pretty much said, you guys know what I mean. You all know what I mean. I don't need to say but 2 words. And she was a real beacon for not just gender equality, but civil rights overall. And that's just my perception of everything she did in her career. And I don't know, what do you got, Lisa?
Well, first of all, I was sworn into the United States Supreme Court at the United States Supreme Court, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg was sitting right in front of me. And,
I don't have that.
Well, it was very thrilling to have all of the justices, but I have to say, she was right in front of me, and it was one of the top, I don't know, 20 of my entire life.
Right.
And And the other thing that I wanted to say is that I am a proud owner of her workout book. Her trainer actually did a workout book. You can get one on Amazon. And
This is not a plug.
that's how she stayed in such good shape. Follow the workout book. It has little
Yeah, she
cartoon
did.
pictures of her doing the exercises.
Yeah.
So,
And
but
she did.
amazing,
She
amazing person.
notoriously worked out till right before she really got sick, before she passed away. She
Yeah.
never gave up. That's her motto. She never gave up, that woman. She was a tough cookie. She really was. Yep. So she may not be a first, but she is definitely one of the top. So
Absolutely.
I put her in.
Absolutely.
And our next first is our first vice president of the United States, who she touts many accomplishments, from district attorney of San Francisco, California attorney general, a US senator. She is the first woman, the first Black American, the first South Asian American to be elected vice president. And like she always says, she's determined not to be the last. She is a really fierce woman in terms of she fights for her causes, and she doesn't back down. I think she's very admirable and a very fine example to young women in the law of how to never give up and to keep fighting for your cause. And she did that throughout her career. Anything, Lisa?
No, I just very proud to have a woman vice president.
Aren't you?
That's,
I really am.
Yes.
I really am.
And hopefully one day president soon.
I agree.
Hopefully one day soon.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Not too soon,
And
but soon.
so our final first, and I thought it was fitting for our time, is the latest nomination to the United States Supreme Court, Ketanji Brown Jackson. I mean, we have our first Black woman to be nominated to the position. And if all goes well, she will be the first to serve on the Supreme Court. So this woman will, she is making history. She is making the bench look like the United States, as it should. And I don't know much about, I didn't read too much about her background yet. You know, I heard when she was nominated and I saw a few blurbs, but I know that she's a very strong woman. I know that she is fair. And how many times is it, 3 or 4? She's already been approved by the Senate for her different positions throughout her court trajectory. So I thought she was a great ending to our talk. What do you think?
I'm pretty sure, I mean, you really brought it full circle, because I'm pretty sure that she grew up here in South Florida.
Yes, she did. Her father went to University of Miami Law School, where I went.
Okay.
Yes, she did. Yeah. So, yep, she did. It's full circle. It really is. I have to tell you, Lisa, this was one of my favorite talks. I really enjoyed it.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Well, you know what? Thanks for being a part of it. And thanks for always being there for all of us. We really appreciate you.
And I appreciate everybody at Coast to Coast. Such a great staff. Really,
so much.
Really so lucky.
You know what? We're all really lucky to be here, and people should know that we're always collaborating with each other. We are a true team, and it's something that, coming from another area of the law and private practice to here, the collaboration and the support of the team, second to none. And the brilliance of our team, can't compete. And I just want to say, I was so happy to kick off Women's History Month with you, with a woman at the top of our organization, and to have this really lively discussion. So thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I just want to remind everybody to follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, on our YouTube channel at Coast to Coast Legal Aid. And every Thursday, watch us at noon for Legal Learnings. Fridays, like today, Fridays with Friends, often at noon, maybe sometimes at 2. We will let you know. But thank you for tuning in. Stay well, stay safe, and take care, everyone.
Take care.